we've been watching this program, as a lot of you have been doing, then you know that you can text us on that WhatsApp number that you see on your screen, or you can call us on the landline number. And I'm sure that a lot of you have queries about the stocks that are taking a little bit of a battering in trade today. Let's take a look at the markets and where they are right now. And you've had the Nifty 50 lose quite a bit of ground. Of course, it's not too far away from the low point of the day. Cuts are about 0.5%. But really, if you look at the texture of the Nifty 50 and look at the contributors, right? Let's pull that up as well. You will notice that it's only the IT stocks as a whole that 73 odd points on the upside is led primarily, or if not only, by the IT pack. You have a bulk of the other stocks that are under quite a bit of pressure. But really, if you think about it, the pain and the pressure is in the broader markets, where you're seeing cuts of over % or so for the mid-cap index, down about 1.6%, and you have sharper cuts at the broadest end of the market, the small cap index down about 2.2%, as a result of which, or rather, you're seeing the market breadth very firmly tilted in favor of the declines, and that hasn't really changed. It's more or less stayed constant of where you have the last 1 hour or so of trade been, right? So you've had one gainer for every 10 or 11 declines at this juncture, and we don't know whether that's going to change at all going forward. Of course, you're going to have to watch that 23,400 mark for the Nifty 50 on the downside. The Nifty Bank also under a little bit of pressure in trade today, currently trading with cuts of about 1% or so and very close to the low point of the day. Several individual stocks also reacting, and some very sharply at that. Anushi, what do you have on your list?
So quite an interesting list that we are looking at today. Now, we spoke about the Nifty 50 being in focus because of the IT pack, which is there. TCS up around 4%. This is despite the weak set of numbers that we've seen, but it's the strong commentary as to why the analysts on the street are bullish on. But coming to the broader markets, where we are looking at a lot of pain, some names that emerge in the mid-cap space is something like a Phoenix Mills. Now, this is up in trade today. This after their Q3 business update, wherein the consumption rose around 21% on a YOY basis, and even the 9-month figure remains stronger at 23% of a growth level. But in the small cap space, we are looking at two stocks in particular which stood out to me. One is GMM Pfaudler, which is up around 5% in such weak markets, and something like ITI also. Now, we've seen strong up moves coming in for ITI Limited. In fact, if you look at the Jan chart itself, it's up around 17% so far in Jan 24. On the brokerage basis, we are seeing names like IRCTC, wherein Macquarie has initiated coverage with an outperform rating. There's GS on Goldman Sachs on IndusInd Bank, wherein they've downgraded the stock to neutral rating. And this is with a target price of 1,090. And something like a CLSA on Bajaj Finance, wherein they have maintained their outperform call, and this is with a 26% of an upside that they're looking at. So a lot of interesting names also in the kind of markets that we are dealing with today, Alex. So
no, certainly. Yeah. We've got Nirav Ashar, who's the head of equity research at Latin Manharlal, joining in. And we will soon have Kushal Gandhi as well on the technical side. Nirav, good morning to you. Tough market today. What do you make of this? Ultimately, you're seeing one pocket of strength, which is the IT pack on the back of TCS earnings. But if you are a fundamental long-term investor, how do you react to the kind of cracks that we're seeing, particularly in the broader end of the spectrum?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me on your show. Well, actually, as we have pointed out earlier also, that we've had a couple of quarters of underperformance. Q1 and Q2 have been disappointment. And after that, we've seen till now, of course, we were seeing that a lot of markets were moving merely on a rhetoric, or some announcements, some positive news flows, sentiments, etc. But now it's a hard time to start looking at the numbers. Markets have started looking at the valuations. Everything has come under the microscope in a way. So I think markets are looking very closely at valuations, and there is really no scope for any error as such, because valuations have reached at such peak levels that there is no scope for error. And if one were to look at the last 3 results which were declared yesterday in yesterday's market, we saw Tata Consultancy Services. I think the only reason why Tata Consultancy Services did see that uptick of 4% in trade is because the valuations still have a lot of comfort. It is the market leader, and the kind of commentary which they have come out with, especially with respect to the total contract value and the deal wins which have taken place, etc. I think that has given a lot of comfort to the investors. At the same time, we had Tata Elxsi, which also had a positive commentary. They've also come out with a lot of positive things to say about the near future. But the valuation comfort has not been there. So I think the stock did get hammered in trade today. And of course, the third is IRIDA, which had a dream debut kind of listing on the markets because of its exposure to the renewable energy space. However, the asset quality has disappointed. So I think despite the fact that we have the sanctions, disbursements, and the overall business doing quite well, but I think the final PAT numbers, the cash flows did not sum up, the asset quality did not sum up. So of course, the stock trades at a P price to book of around 6.2 times, which is quite uncomfortable, and which needs a very high level of growth to sustain at those kind of valuations. Hence, we are seeing some kind of pressure over there too. So I think a similar kind of trend is likely to repeat in the majority of the stocks which are going to announce their numbers. Already we are seeing that a lot of companies which are announcing their numbers are quite nervous ahead of the Q3 results. So I think that's going to be the trend going forward.
No doubt, no doubt. And the point is well made. In fact, just if you looked at the headline numbers for IRIDA at the start today, as I did, you would have assumed that things are looking sanguine. But if you looked at the sequential move in the asset quality, you would have realized that there is a very sharp deterioration of asset quality, and perhaps it bears watching to see why that has taken place, and we will reach out to the management to see what that is about. But we've got our first caller for the day. We've got Rakesh from Ahmedabad who's calling us this morning. Rakesh, good morning and thanks so much for calling us today. How can we help you today?
Yeah, morning, Matthew. I just wanted to have a technical outlook on Voltamp.
Yes.
I am holding 20 shares at 12,000 a piece, and I want to average out. So, what would be the levels I should look for entering again?
Okay, and what is your time horizon, Rakesh?
Long term, maybe 1 or 2 years.
Okay, so you basically bought it based on the fundamentals, and you're still holding on with the idea that the fundamentals are strong, but you want to average. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So Kushal Gandhi has joined us. Kushal, good morning to you. What do you make of Voltamp? It's trading significantly lower than the buy price of 12,000. Is this the right opportunity to deploy some money? It's under pressure in trade today as well.
Voltamp, if you see, the stocks under heavy distribution, and the volume pressure has been increasing. It's broken a critical demand zone near 9,100. So I would recommend him to average on the upside rather. Probably wait for like 10,500 levels to be taken out. That's when you should start averaging on the upside.
Okay, so that was the view for Voltamp. Now the next query is from Gautam Kumar from Bangalore. He's bought about 100 shares of Tata Steel, and this is at a price of 148. If you look at the current, if you pull out this Tata Steel stock price, currently facing a loss of 2,000, as the stock is currently at its 52-week low levels. Now the stock price is around 128. Wants to understand whether this is the correct position, correct time to add more to this, or should he sell and move to a different counter? Coming to you, Nirav, for this, what is your outlook on something like a Tata Steel?
So I think the metal space per se, I think the steel business has been doing quite well in India, but I think Europe could be one pain point for the company. And of course, in the domestic markets, there is this pressure of imports. So the dumping of steel has been happening, and that has put the domestic companies under pressure. So I think, to my mind, the steel space will be a slow mover. So it's better to shift to some other sector for the time being.
Shift to another sector, and of course pay attention to the production numbers as well. Broadly you saw an improvement, but you saw some pockets of weakness. UK is something that you should watch very closely as well. Sanjay is calling us from Surat. Sanjay, good morning to you. I believe you want to know about Bandhan Bank?
Yeah. I'm holding Bandhan Bank 312, 312 at the rate of 320.
Okay, very elevated level that you bought it at. Can you tell me when you bought it?
Maybe 2018. I am holding since.
Since then. Okay,
Yeah.
and you want to hold it for how long?
Yes, I want to know that what is the problem with this bank because it is constantly doing going down.
Yeah.
And is there any problem in this bank or something else?
Yeah, that's a fair question to ask for somebody who's held as long as you have, Sanjay. Let me go across to Nirav on this one because Nirav, we know certain aspects that have caused pressure on the downside for the stock in terms of management over the last couple of financial years. We've seen pressure on the microfinance space where it lends. But a lot of people are saying that at 1.1 or very close to 1 times price to book, this stock looks a little more attractive than it has in the past on the valuations picture. But Sanjay's specific question is there anything wrong with the fundamentals?
Well, definitely when the stock price goes down, then there's definitely something which the market knows and what the market is trying to price in to arrive at the accurate market price. So definitely something has gone wrong, whether it's the asset quality related issues or whether it is the regulatory issues or whether it is the quality of the management. But I think having spent so much time, I think it would be prudent to hold for at least a couple of quarters to see whether there is any possibility of restoration or revival from the current levels. If not, then I think it will be better to switch to some other quality stock in the same space.
Okay, so that's the view for Bandhan Bank that we're looking at. Next query is from Sridhar from Bangalore. He wants to understand whether this is the correct time to buy something like a Tata Elxsi at the current levels. Now, do note that Tata Elxsi did come out with its results yesterday, and it was a weaker set of numbers that we are looking at. And if the industry perspective also points to a bleak picture going forward. Kushal, but coming to you on this, a technical check on something like Tata Elxsi, what is your view?
Well, I have a negative outlook on Tata Elxsi simply because the stock has broken down a very crucial support today, which is somewhere near 6,500. And I feel the selling pressure might sustain because Tata Elxsi is trading below its key moving averages like the 250 weekly moving average. So it's best to avoid the stock and rather just book your losses or profits at the current market price. It can be a falling knife since the breakdown is a little sharper.
Particularly, 2025 has already been pretty bleak for Tata Elxsi. The kind of drop that you've seen in share price is very, very sharp. It did see a decline in revenue and a contraction in the margin in the quarter gone by. Ishita is calling us from Kolkata to talk about PCBL, which is Philips Carbon Black. The earnings are today, so it's a stock in focus. Morning, Ishita. What do you want to know?
Hi, good morning. I have 170 shares. I bought at 456.32.
Sorry, can you repeat the share price? Because I thought that it was 356. Is that wrong? Did you buy at elevated levels?
Yes, I bought it some time back.
So you bought at 456, is that right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so all right. And when you bought it, did you buy it based on the fundamentals?
Yes, the revenue is stable, a little up, I would say. And recently, they have opened up or they are planning to open up a new factory at Telangana. So they are expanding.
Okay, so from that perspective,
keeping that in mind.
Okay, and so you have a long-term view on the stock, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So clearly the earnings are something that we have to talk about today. I do not know, Nirav, if you have coverage on the stock. I asked somebody earlier in the day and they said that they don't have coverage. But what would you say? Would you hold Philips Carbon Black? And by the way, in case people are not aware, I just want to set the context. This is a company that makes carbon black, part of what they do, of course, and that goes into tires, among other things, in case you were wondering why tires are black. Nirav, what do you have to say about PCBL?
Yes, actually, the stock of PCBL had a very swift run from 270 levels to 580 levels. This is when the management had given an interview that they have the potential to grow their profits by 5 times in the next 5 years. That's what clearly excited the markets. And I think a lot of investors have entered on the back of all this commentary which was made, and then subsequently we've seen a sharp correction in the prices of the stock. The stock is now currently near 380 levels. We are expecting the numbers today. Last quarter was slightly disappointing because a lot of integration issues are happening. They've acquired a company called Aquafarm. At the same time, they are going in for a greenfield expansion as well. This greenfield expansion is likely to result in the capacity going up from 7,70,000 metric ton per annum to 1 million metric ton per annum in the next 2 to 3 years. So I think if the investor is there for the long haul, then I think it will be better to wait for the results which come out today. What is the kind of commentary? I think integration with Aquafarm will take some time, and I think carbon black by its own nature is a commodity, so this becomes a kind of a commodity play as well. So need to be a little bit careful before averaging out on the stock. But clearly, if the vision is one of 2 to 3 years, then definitely one can average, but in a very very cautious way.
Okay, so in a cautious way, can add more to PCBL. Now the next query is from Mukesh, and he had bought 550 shares of Tata Power, and this was at a price of 258. Wants to get a check, is it whether it is a right position to add more to these levels at the current levels, or whether he should do it later. Kushal, coming to you for something like a Tata Power, is this the correct time to enter in this stock and add more to the existing position that the viewer already has?
I have a negative outlook on Tata Power because it's broken a very crucial demand zone near 370 odd levels, and again it's been losing the relative strength. So I think this might turn out to be distribution pace, and stock might succumb to further selling pressure. So it's best to avoid the stock and rather have it sold.
Okay, so a sell is the call for Tata Power, so a negative outlook that we are seeing. But next we have a caller joining us. So this is Sunil Chahal from Haryana. Hi Sunil, हम आपकी कैसी मदद कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे?
नमस्कार मैम, एलएक्सी को भी नमस्कार।
नमस्कार सर।
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज पे है, बीएससी पे।
जी बिल्कुल।
2023 में मैंने इसको 200 स्टॉक्स बाय किए थे 525 पे में।
ठीक है।
अभी ऑलरेडी अप्रिशिएट हो गया काफी, तो आई वांट टू नो क्या मैं इसको 5 साल या 6 साल और होल्ड कर सकता हूँ, और शुड आई बुक प्रॉफिट?
पहले तो बधाई हो, आपको इतना सा मुनाफा हुआ ये स्टॉक में, बट आपको 5-6 साल के लिए और जानना है, राइट, कि आप आगे उसमें ऐड कर सकते हो। Okay, so let me take this query to Nirav. What is your view on something like a BSC for a long-term perspective? We've seen a lot of queries coming for this stock in particular. Do you have a positive view on something like it for a long-term basis as well?
Well, yes, because this has been a concept stock. It's generated a tremendous amount of wealth for the investors. So the advice will be to hold the stock unless and until there is some requirement for money. I think it's not advisable to liquidate the stock.
And just purely on the basis of the market participation and the way that we've seen these trends move, any view on the upside potential, or do you think that for a little while at least you might see sideways movement based on the kind of valuations that you're seeing right now, Nirav?
Well, there could be some phases where there will be some consolidation, but I think then broadly the stock will have an upward momentum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, Nirav, right? It was? I think it was, no, Sunil. It was Sunil.
Yeah.
Sunil, congratulations for the acquisition that you made, and also for having the kind of patience to hold for so long. And thanks so much for calling us. We've got the next question from Reshma Bhatia, who's asking about Aarti Industries. She's bought a couple of months back at a price of 470 rupees per share, and she's holding at a loss because the stock has been under a tad bit of pressure since August, when you saw selling pressure emerge for the market as a whole. She says she doesn't mind holding the stock for the long term if the fundamentals are healthy and robust. So therefore, Nirav, I'm coming to you on the fundamentals. Would you hold for the long term?
I think it appears that the company is on the verge of a turnaround in operations. So I think it will definitely make sense to hold for at least 2 quarters from here on to exactly reap the benefits of the investments which have been made.
Okay, okay. So that's the view. Hold is the view on Aarti Industries, and it's on the brink of a turnaround. Nirav, I must confess that for companies like Aarti Industries, I've been hearing this for some time now. We've been talking about that brink for the last couple of quarters. Hopefully that does pan out. Madhu Acharya is calling us from Karnataka. Greaves Cotton is the name of the counter that he wants to know about. Madhu, good morning. Thanks so much for calling us. How can we help you?
Good morning.
Please go ahead, Madhu.
Okay. I bought 20 days back Greaves Cotton 4,700 shares at the rate of 318 rupees,
Yes.
top level.
Yes.
So now it is near about 3 lakhs loss.
Yes, I can see that. But
what-
do you have a
what
short term? Do you have a short term outlook, Madhu?
No. In the long term, I am.
Okay.
I can for 1 year, 2 years like that.
When did you buy this? So you bought this a few months back, right, Madhu?
Well, just 25 days back.
Just 25 days, and you've seen a considerable loss. Can you give me a sense of where this sits in your portfolio? Do you have a wider portfolio as well, Madhu?
Okay, I am always waiting long time.
You're waiting for
So
the long term.
long time for I bought.
Okay, I understood. I got your question. Madhu, so let me go to Nirav on the fundamentals then, because you've seen quite a bit of pressure on this stock from the high point. It's still up about 47% or so, but he's seeing a loss. What should he do right now? Because he's bought a considerable quantity, 4,700 shares.
Well, an unfortunate case of being caught up in the frenzy, because we had this Greaves Cotton subsidiary, Greaves Mobility Solutions, which has filed for the IPO, and I think in all this frenzy, the stock did run up quite a lot, and unfortunately, some investors would have entered at the higher end of the band. So I think on a fundamental side, I think really nothing much other than this announcement about the IPO. So I think it's advisable to hold at this point of time, wait for the IPO papers to get cleared and the IPO to hit the market, so that there would be possibility of an exit at the time of the IPO of the subsidiary. So I think that's the only way out at this point of time.
Okay, so hold is what we are looking for, Greaves Cotton, and definitely the focus would remain on the IPO. That is what the company had highlighted earlier as well. But the next question is from Vivain, and he's bought around 21 shares of Bajaj Finance at a price of 7,262. Wants to understand when can he expect to make profit out of this? Currently, if we see his position, he has a flattish movement on the stock. Kushal, coming to you for something like a Bajaj Finance, what is your outlook? How does it look on the charts?
Well, I have a positive outlook on Bajaj Finance from a medium-term point of view. I mean, on the price action-wise, it's been forming a volatility contraction pattern, which is a very classic sign of smart money participation. So I would recommend him to hold. The movement can be a bit slower, but I definitely have a positive view on the stock, and he should be holding with an immediate target of 8,050, with a stop loss near 6,968.
One would assume that in such a market, there is a gravitation towards quality, and we'll see how that pans out. We have to slip into a very quick break. Do stay with us. We'll be back on the other side to take more of your questions.
The world of capital markets and trading post Zerodha is probably never going to be the same. Was the idea to change things down because you loved trading?
I think the best case outcome was 100,000 customers forever.
In early 2024, you had a stroke. Was that your biggest challenge that you've ever faced?
The first 2 months I couldn't move, and move as in I could move but slowly and etc. But I couldn't talk at all.
What next for Zerodha?
I think last year was probably the peak of the broking industry.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What's the picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know your company, powered by NDTV Profit's research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers. Know your company at 11:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, only on NDTV Profit.
We set you up for the day's trade. 30 calls before the markets open on NDTV Profit.
Jubilant food above a 600 level on Friday.
Wipro can be first trade to buy
all commodities, but in that Vedanta looks good.
Our experts give you the top stock ideas to prepare you for the day.
ICICI Lombard stocks hit the first target. It has given a very good momentum with good volume.
Don't miss the chance to make the right moves. Only on NDTV Profit, where winners are made before the bell rings. Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
The world of capital markets and trading post-Zerodha is probably never going to be the same. Was the idea to change things down because you loved trading?
I think the best case outcome was 100,000 customers forever.
In early 2024, you had a stroke. Was that your biggest challenge that you've ever faced?
The first 2 months I couldn't move, and move as in I could move but slowly and etc. But I couldn't talk at all.
What next for Zerodha?
I think last year was probably the peak of the broking industry.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What's the picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know your company, powered by NDTV Profit's research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers. Know your company at 11:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, only on NDTV Profit.
We set you up for the day's trade. 30 calls before the markets open on NDTV Profit.
Jubilant food above a 600 level on Friday.
Wipro can be first trade to buy
all commodities, but in that Vedanta looks good.
Our experts give you the top stock ideas to prepare you for the day.
ICICI Lombard stocks hit the first target. It has given a very good momentum with good volume.
Don't miss the chance to make the right moves. Only on NDTV Profit, where winners are made before the bell rings. Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize.
Welcome back. You're watching Ask Profit, and this is a show that gets you answers to all of your stock-related questions. It is not the best day for the equity markets, and there's that thank God it's Friday moment. If at all we could end this day faster, perhaps a lot of us would be happier at this juncture. But at least for the benchmark, we've recovered a little bit. And we're trading off the low point of the day, certainly. And let's also take a look at the broader markets, because they've also come off the low point. You had cuts of over 2%, for example, for the small cap index and also the mid cap index, but you've come off a little bit. Let's see if that continues towards the second half of the session. We've got a caller, Rajendra Singh, who's calling us from Amchi, Mumbai. Rajendra, thanks so much for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi, good morning. Actually, I bought this HAL shares during APO period. And I'm a bit worried because there is some news about the delivery of engines from LG to HAL. So I just want to know whether I have to hold this stock or...
Okay. I must confess that I have not caught that piece of information, but good that you're holding on to or you're tracking the latest developments in the stock, Rajendra. Let me ask if Nirav has seen anything with regard to this. And I guess also, Nirav, you're looking at the order book, you're looking at execution. Order book, of course, there's nothing to complain about, right? So HAL, the only thing is it's lost ground from the high point, but he's bought at 730 level, so he has nothing to complain about.
Well, definitely yes, and it's a hold at any point of time. I think, well, yes, some defense stocks, we have seen them correct from the high points of their lifetime. But I think it makes perfect sense to hold, and no requirement as such to switch to any other stock at this point of time.
Hold is what we are looking for Hindustan Aeronautics from the current levels. And the next question is from Srinivas Rao from Bengaluru. He has bought around 1,500 shares of NTPC Green at a price of 124. Wants to understand the long-term picture for this business for the next 2 to 3 years. Nirav, coming back to you for something like NTPC Green, what is your outlook on this?
Well, I think NTPC Green Energy will move on similar lines like what its parent did, and I think really don't expect it to be a runaway stock. It will give consistent kind of returns with good dividend yields, etc. So I think if he's satisfied with that kind of performance, then he should hold on to the stock.
Incidentally, we also have Pradeep Kumar, who's calling us from Kerala. Pradeep, if I remember correctly, you've called us before. You are holding NTPC Green as well, right, in significant quantity. What would you like to know?
Thank you. Hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Pradeep. Please go ahead.
I would like to know a more add or exit from the share.
Okay. And what is the time horizon that you have in mind, Pradeep? You can hold for the long term?
Maybe 6 months.
6 months. Okay. So it's the perfect opportunity to take a technical check also on NTPC Green. We've already gotten a fundamental view. Kushal, on the charts, he's bought at levels of close to 147. So he's lost ground. He's got a 6-month time frame, as he's pointed out, but 3,000 shares. What's the strategy you would have here?
Ask him to hold these close near 115 levels because the stock is in downtrend. I mean, the stock has succumbed to something what we call as an IPO disease, where we see like a rapid increase followed by significant downturn. So it's broken its immediate support, which was near 124 2 trading sessions before. So I would ask him to put a very strict stop loss near 115 levels and hold.
Okay, so hold for NTPC Green on the technical check. Now, next question. This is from Deepak, and he wants to understand on Ola Electric whether he should buy, sell, or hold. His average price is around 90. So, if you pull out the stock price of this one, it's currently at the levels of 75. So, considerable downtick in terms of where the performance is. Nirav, coming to you for something like Ola Electric, what is your view? How are you making of this stock and the long-term prospects of it?
Well, there was a lot of optimism initially, but I think the service-related issues, the lot of complaints, and the competitive intensity going up. So I think it's advisable to stay away from the stock.
All right, so that's the view on Ola Electric. Of course, the stock has been a little bit under pressure, and on the fundamentals especially, where you've seen, interestingly, Bajaj Auto, after it's changed the pricing of its electric Chetak, take a larger share in the market, and so Bajaj Auto is making inroads into that electric vehicle space, and that is having a bearing likely on Ola Electric as well, which is the market leader in the two-wheeler space, electric space. Let's talk about the next question, and Rohit is calling us from Bengaluru. Hi Rohit, thanks so much for calling us. How can we help you?
Yeah, hi. So
I am holding the IDFC First Bank, 14,000 shares, averaging at around 80 rupees. And I see, I'm holding it for around a year. I've been averaging for over a year.
Yes.
And I've been seeing that it's not moving so much. I thought fundamentally it's a good share to hold for the long term.
Yes.
So what is the advice now?
Okay, can you help me a little bit with a little bit more data, Rohit, just so that my expert can help you better? In the financial services space, is this your primary pick and your primary bet? And do you have more stocks? And what percentage of your portfolio is this?
No, I don't have in the financial space more stocks. And this would constitute maybe I would say about 30% of my total investments.
Okay, understood. All right, so that gives me enough context to go to you, Nirav. Would you suggest that he holds on to this, perhaps diversify a little bit more in the holding that he has, just as a prudent measure? He's lost ground, and 14,000 shares is not a small amount to hold.
Yeah, the idea would be to slowly diversify out of this stock because this stock has been kind of a non-performer. Despite the fact that the performance has been reasonably okay, we've had a very good quarterly update also, but I think still the stock refuses to move. So I think, as you rightly pointed out, it is advisable to slowly diversify out of this stock.
Incidentally, I must point out, Nirav, that a lot of people continue to have a positive view on IDFC First Bank, and I'm glad that you're giving a counter view at this juncture. In the financial services space, if you are to continue to hold, then let me just follow through on that. If you are diversifying out of this, would you move to something in the financial services space or something else?
Well, there could be some better quality picks in the financial services space. So I think can be explored. Maybe I think at this point of time, one could have a look at Jio Financial Services, or one could have a look at Bajaj Housing Finance. All these stocks have also corrected significantly and are giving good entry levels at this point of time.
Okay, so something like a Jio Financial is that we should be watching out for. Now, next one is from Hemant Oswal from Bangalore, and he wants to understand the medium-term outlook for something like a Sona BLW. He bought it at a price of 670. If you can pull something like a Sona BLW currently at the levels of 569. Kushal, coming to you on this one, what is your view on this stock? How is it looking on the charts?
Negative outlook on Sona BLW. The stock has been under distribution, and it's broken some crucial support levels near 650. And we've seen some lower low, lower high price structure on the weekly outlook. So that's a sell from my end.
I want to take the next question from Harjeet, and really one of the sweetest messages that I've gotten for a while. Harjeet is writing in from Mohali, and he says that he's sorry that he keeps disturbing us very often. Harjeet, it's absolutely our pleasure to take your question. He also points out that he's a retired army officer and full-time managing and learning the basics of the market very carefully. He says that he's a long-term investor and has been investing in the stock market for the last 4 decades. He's sending his blessings as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. It means the world to us. You have made my day. His question is on transformers and rectifiers, which he's bought at an average price of 800 rupees. He's also spoken about the fact that there have been corporate announcements in this stock. He's wondering whether it makes sense to accumulate further based on the fundamentals. It has dropped a little bit based on the bonus declaration, etc., etc. Nirav, on the fundamentals, would you say that it's a good idea to continue to accumulate this stock?
Well, yes, because the entire transformer space is in a very, very strong zone at this point of time. I think we have transformers and rectifiers which has had a dream run. And I think the entire green energy transition which is happening, the renewables which need to be integrated with the national grid. So I think there's going to be a huge demand for transformers. So the entire space, whether it is Voltamp or whether it is GE or Indotech transformers, all of them are doing well. So I think definitely he should hold on and even average out on transformers and rectifiers India.
Well, that's the view for transformers and rectifiers India. Now, next we have a caller joining us. This is Tukaram from Bengaluru. Hi, Tukaram. How can we help you on the show today?
Yeah, hello. Hi. So I just bought this average Canto cylinder shares at 170 price, 2000 quantity.
Right. Can you give us a timeline?
Yeah, just for about 2 years.
So do you want a fundamental check on this? How long do you plan to hold?
No, not fundamental, the technical only.
Okay, so technical. We'll go to the Kushal on this query then. Kushal, something like Everest Canto cylinders, he's bought around 2,000 shares. What's your view on this stock?
Well, Everest Canto is trading at a very precarious level right now. It's currently hovering near 200 EMA, which is acting as a very crucial support zone. So my sense is to keep a very tight stop loss near 159 levels. A breach below those levels, should exit his positions.
Okay. Coming back to you, Kushal, on Adani Ports, and we've got Rohit Panda who's writing in. He's bought 1,000 shares at a price of 1,324, so slightly elevated level. The stock has been under a tad bit of pressure over the last 5 months or so. And so therefore he is incurring a loss. He's got a considerable quantity. Would you suggest holding on? Would you suggest buying? What is the short-term outlook?
Yeah, the negative outlook, simply if we see, the December rally that we saw, a small rally, but, the price action failed to hold up with shorter-term moving averages acting as immediate supply zone. And again, we've seen some sustained selling pressure continuing. So I think I think the selling pressure might continue for a bit while longer. So it's best to exit the positions.
The positions on the short term. I'm curious about what Nirav has to say on the long-term prospects, because a lot's been said about the operational metrics of this company, the fact that it controls over 2/3 of the port activity in the country. So would these be opportunities to buy for the long term on the basis of fundamentals?
Definitely yes. And I think with a portfolio of around 15 ports, I think Adani Ports and SEZ remains a very, very strong buy, especially when it's been going through a down phase at the moment. But I think when we saw the quarterly updates, etc., then I think really nothing disturbing at this point of time. So I think it's definitely an opportunity in the making.
The standard disclaimer at this juncture: Adani Ports are obviously part of the Adani group of companies. And NDTV Profit is part of the NDTV group, which is owned by Adani Group as well.
Okay, so next one is from Megha, and she's bought around 200 shares of Suzlon Energy. Not sure about at what price she's bought, but wants to understand the long-term picture of this. If you are looking at today's performance, the stock is down around 2%. Nirav, coming back to you for this, Suzlon Energy, what is the long-term prospects of the business?
Positive prospects, and I think they've got their act together, and basically the execution has improved, the order book has improved, the balance sheet has improved, and the execution keeps getting better. So I think we expect the stock to double in the next couple of years.
Okay. Naveen is calling us from Visakhapatnam now, and he's asking about Jubilant FoodWorks. Naveen, good morning. How can we help you today?
Hi, Alex, good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
I have around 70 shares of Jubilant FoodWorks, around 518 rupees. Just want to understand the long-term view fundamentally.
Okay. I'm curious, Naveen, because there is conversation in certain pockets where we're staying, at least in Mumbai, that Jubilant Food is finding a lot of competition in the unlisted space, in the QSR space, right? So people are making other choices. Where you are at, are people continuing to consume Jubilant FoodWorks, Domino's?
So the reason slightly in a different way. So it is my core portfolio. So when I entered Jubilant, my thought process was two things. One, Zomato was listed at that point of time.
Yes.
So I was investing parallel in Zomato. And if, let's say, that at that point of time, Zomato was actually slightly a negative side. So if Zomato will not do good, there is a high possibility the other quick commerce company, I can say Domino's, is already there in food delivery. So it may do good in future. So in that perspective, I have taken in that, and currently sitting around 42% growth, and CAGR also around 18%, 20% I have.
Yeah, very interesting perspective that you've got. Thanks, Naveen, for sharing that with us. Nirav will come to you on this because it's part of his long-term portfolio, his core portfolio, and he's wanting to know whether to continue to hold. And he seems to be bullish on the QSR space as a whole.
Well, yes, definitely. You should continue to hold because I think we've seen some very good operational performance from Jubilant Foodworks. I think the last quarterly update was also quite strong, and they've reported a very impressive growth in the turnover. And I think most of that should translate into bottom line gains also in the next couple of quarters' time. So I think valuation wise, we are likely to see a re-rating plus the intent to double the stores for Domino's from 2,000 outlets to 4,000 outlets by 2030. So I think definitely it is advisable to stay invested.
Stay invested is the call for Jubilant Foodworks. And so, there was a lot of buzz about the QSR space in general. There were Bernstein notes also which highlighted that 2025 could be a turnaround year for the business. So definitely eyes would be on Jubilant Foodworks and other companies like Devyani and Westlife also. But now the next stock in focus is Piramal Enterprises. Raja had bought the shares at a price of 1,165 and is holding it for more than 2 years. Wants to understand the short-term outlook on this. Kushal, coming to you for something like a Piramal Enterprises, what is your view on this?
Well, speaking of Piramal Enterprises, stock is trading in stage 1, which is characterized by accumulation phase. So I'm expecting the stock to remain sideways. And so yeah, I mean it's a hold, but I'm it's going to take a pretty long time to start taking on the upside trajectory. So yeah, I mean it's a hold from my end.
It's a hold on Piramal Enterprises. All right. Shekhar is calling us from Bengaluru. Shekhar, good morning to you, and how can we help you today?
Yeah, good morning. I'm holding the shares of SBI at the average price of 460.
Wow.
Shall I sell or hold, because it's already went up 800 and so.
Yeah.
But
Shekhar,
yeah, that's my question.
Shekhar, help me. When did you buy this stock?
Maybe 2 years back.
2 years. And what was the thinking when you bought it?
It's like my father is working in SBI. He used to work in SBI, but he is not there, so he has some shares at the time. So I added some up. That's it.
Understood.
So,
I am sorry for your loss, and I appreciate that you shared that with me, Shekhar. Thanks so much for doing that. Long-term prospects, therefore, is being sought. Nirav, 460 rupees per share is the buy price. He's holding on to something that his father purchased. It's a legacy holding, therefore. And so, would you hold on to State Bank of India?
Yes, definitely. I think it's advisable to hold for the long term.
Okay, could you give me some more perspective on what are the prospects on the long term, and specifically on the earnings trajectory? Do you anticipate there will be an improvement at all? Of course, it's a big play in the housing space. It has been growing its mortgage book quite significantly. What are the areas that you see State Bank of India doing well in?
Well, I think they have a significant exposure to a lot of business from the government, which they tend to get PSUs, etc. And they've been expanding their retail banking also in a very, very impressive way. So I think the growth momentum is likely to be sustained going forward in an impressive way. Branch network is also improving, the productivity is also improving. So I think definitely it makes sense to hold on.
Hold for SBI is what we are looking for. I hope that answers your query, Shekhar. Now, next one is from Ravi Kumar from Andhra Pradesh. Wants to understand a technical check on NTPC. Kushal, what is your view, the short-term view for NTPC?
Negative outlook on NTPC because the stock has been trading with low high, low price structure, and it's indicative of constant selling pressure with shorter term moving average acting as immediate supply zone. So it's an avoid.
Avoid. NTPC is an avoid right now. All right. We've got the next question on Kalyan Jewelers, and this is Darshan Manviwala, who's writing in from Surat in Gujarat. He's invested, I believe, 20,000 rupees, if I'm not mistaken, in Kalyan Jewelers, and he's not really told me the buy price. Is this the right time to buy more, is the question, I think. Nirav, on the fundamentals, Kalyan Jewelers, and incidentally, I'm curious what you think, because we've seen quite a few quarterly updates come through from these jewelry companies, and at least on the turnover side, it seems to be positive, but I'm not sure how much of this is an account of the increase in gold prices over the course of 2024, because you talk about gold and it's up, what, 30% or thereabouts, so that would definitely affect the turnover, but the volume picture may be something else entirely.
Well, as far as the jewelry companies are concerned, I think it's been a mix of a lot of things. One is the appetite for gold. At the same time, the reduction in the customs duty, the festival season, the wedding season, all a combination of everything, pent-up demand. So everything coming together, and it's important as far as the quarterly earnings are concerned. One thing is very important. Is that the sale of the gold coins, etc., has also gone up. Plain jewelry has gone up. Studded has been okay types. But I think, again, it's very important to look at the valuation perspective. I think most of these stocks have gone up in a very, very exponential fashion. So I think despite very strong quarterly updates coming in, we've seen a correction in these stocks. So I think it's better to stay away from these stocks at this point.
Okay, so it's a blink and you miss it kind of an experience, because let's pull up the markets. The Nifty 50 is currently in the green and it has recovered significantly from the low point. It's hovering around the yesterday's close, of course, with gains of about 0.1% or so. But interestingly, buying at the lower levels for quite a few stocks, because you've had the mid-cap index also recover quite substantially. It's trading with cuts of only about 0.8% at this juncture. I say only because just a short while back, it was significantly lower. The small-cap index also trading with cuts of about 1.3% or thereabouts, and off the low point of the day. Let's see if that recovery sustains heading into the rest of the trading session. It is time to hit the rapid-fire segment, Kushal as well as Nirav. This means that we will toss as many questions as possible at you over the next 2 minutes and do answer as quickly as you possibly can. Kabir Tejwani has got the first question on Bajaj Housing Finance, and he's bought 30 shares at a price of 180. Should he hold for the long term? Nirav?
Hold.
Okay. Dinesh from Gurgaon wants to know about Aurobindo Pharma. Aurobindo Pharma is the name of the counter. 1,271 is the buy price. 15 shares being held. Should you buy more or sell? Kushal? Sorry?
Exit.
I didn't catch that. Exit?
It's an exit. Sell the stock.
Okay. Okay, the next one is on HDFC Bank. We've got a question from Indrapreet, and he's asking what the long-term prospects are, 2 to 4 years. Would you buy, Nirav?
Buy.
Buy. Reliance Industries target for a month. Jagu wants to know whether you would buy and hold for a month. What's the target, Kushal?
Well, I'm expecting a very shorter-term target, which would be close to 1,300.
Okay, Allied Blenders is the name of the counter we're looking at next. Sandeep, something like this for the long term, would you buy?
Avoid.
Avoid. Tejas Networks, average price of 1,160. Shalini from Telangana wants to know what the long-term view is. Nirav, would you hold on to this?
Hold.
Motilal Oswal, a stock that has done incredibly well in 2024. Will it continue to do well in 2025? What is the buy zone for this, Nirav? Kushal?
Well, I'm positive on the stock. You can accumulate from the current market price till 882, 875 levels. It's a good entry zone.
Okay. I'm not sure if we already took this. Bajaj Finance for the next 12 to 18 months or State Bank of India. Kushal, what's the pick between these two? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I would go with Bajaj Finance or SBI.
Okay. We've been losing your audio at just the most important moments, but I think we got it. Thanks so much, Nirav, Kushal, for joining in and for answering all of those questions. And it's been a fascinating session. Thanks so much for taking the time. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Ask Profit. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, wish you and everybody at home a very happy weekend. We'll be back next week to take more of your questions. Do stay tuned. Of course, I have to tell you about a new show that we've got lined up, Disruptors. The first episode plays out today, and it's an exciting conversation. We got a glimpse of that earlier on in the day. It's with none other than Nitin Kamath, and he's speaking about everything from his journey to building Zomato What am I saying? Zomato, you're talking about Zerodha, and also what the prospects are for the brokerage business going forward. So do stay tuned for that. Plays out at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. today.
The world of capital markets and trading post Zerodha is probably never going to be the same. Was the idea to change things down because you loved trading?
I think the best case outcome was 100,000 customers forever.
In early 2024, you had a stroke. Was that your biggest challenge that you've ever faced?
The first 2 months I couldn't move, and move as in I could move but slowly and etc. But I couldn't talk at all.
What next for Zerodha?
I think last year was probably the peak of the broking industry.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What's the picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know your company, powered by NDTV Profits Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers. Know your company at 11:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, only on NDTV Profit.
We set you up for the day's trade. 30 calls before the markets open on NDTV Profit.
Jubilant food above a 600 level on Friday.
Wipro can be first trade to buy
all commodities, but in that Vedanta looks good.
Our experts give you the top stock ideas to prepare you for the day.
ICICI Lombard stocks hit the first target. It has given a very good momentum with good volume.
Don't miss the chance to make the right moves. Only on NDTV Profit, where winners are made before the bell rings. Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
The world of capital markets and trading post Zerodha is probably never going to be the same. Was the idea to change things down because you loved trading?
I think the best case outcome was 100,000 customers forever.
In early 2024, you had a stroke. Was that your biggest challenge that you've ever faced?
The first 2 months I couldn't move, and move as in I could move but slowly and etc. But I couldn't talk at all.
What next for Zerodha?
I think last year was probably the peak of the broking industry.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What's the picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims?
Hello and welcome. Good morning. You're watching KYC here on NDTV Profit. I'm Harsh Sahit. I'm going to be shortly joined by Mihika Barve because the company we're focusing on today is Deep Industries. It's into oil and gas field services. So in terms of the service supply chain, it covers 70% of the service supply chain. It was incorporated in 1991, so technically 34 years old, and it's an oil and gas service provider. It provides services like gas compression, dehydration, drilling, along with project management. And it also provides workover services and gas dehydration services. It also, last off, is an integrated project management service business also is something that it covers. So pretty much 70% of the exploration services in the entire value chain is covered by Deep Industries. Now, in terms of its clientele, prestigious clientele, before I come to the breakdown of these numbers, ONGC, Kane, Oil India, SR, Gujarat State Petronet, Gujarat Gas, as well as Adani Gas. All of these are some of the key clients of Deep Industries. Just to kind of highlight, all of the marquee clients that are out there are part of the client list for the company. Now, in terms of the business itself, that's the split in terms of, what's the kind of business services that they provide to revenue. And look at the margins of some of those businesses. Project management comprises just 20% of the top line, is the lowest margin business at this point, 27 to 28%. But look at some of the other, services that it provides and the kind of margins that it gets. Almost half the business is the 60% margin business. And that's what really stands out for me about this company. It obviously is one of the front runners in terms of the services it provides versus others, which is why some of these margins are currently sustaining. And therefore, that's the other thing that really stands out. While we are assessing all of these companies, we always look at performance parameters. Let me take you through the performance parameters that we'll be looking out for Deep Industries today. You'll have the income statement, you'll have the order book position, and this is going to be key because it'll give you some visibility on what next over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whether that top line number and growth with regard to the income statement is sustainable or not. Then we'll look at the balance sheet and some return ratios as well. After that, we look at cash flow, shareholding pattern, we'll look at the street cred, the way in which the stock has performed, and we'll also look at the street coverage, how well analysts or how many analysts are actually covering the stock, giving us a lens into how widely covered the company is. Thereafter, we'll give you the full ratings and we'll give you a SWOT. So all of that coming through over the next maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Let me first off welcome on board Mihika Barve, who's going to help me break this down. Mihika, in fact, you're the one going to drive this more than me. Income statement. Yeah. Why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, let's kick off with the income statement. Sustainable growth, when you look at how it's progressed from FY22 to FY24, we have strong CAGR numbers in terms of your past 3 years as well. FY24, top line of around 420 crores, EBITDA 195 crores, and net profit of 125 crores. When you look at how it's moved, we have from the double-digit CAGR numbers. Something that stands out is how its margins have expanded. FY22 stood at 37%, FY24 closed at 42.2%, and even if you see H1, FY25, we've seen an improvement, and that's because the business segments that the company operates in are high business segments, so it's a thumbs up on that front. The next thing I want to talk about is order book, and that's seen significant amount of growth.
Interrupt you there. Yeah. Before we head to order book, I want to focus in a little bit on margins because the way in which margins have gone up, 37 to 42.5. Just tell me, is it just the higher margin business that's coming in more? Is it the cycle? What's your sense on this one?
So the operations obviously very dependent on its key players and how they carry forward their oil and gas explorations. Right. But what they have is some of a competitive advantage because not a lot of players in the space. And when we've spoken to management, even in the past, they've talked about how they have a wide set of, operations in terms of what they provide. So you get the same clients kind of adding different orders in the different segments. And what gives them is because they have the assets in place. All they have to do is deploy. it takes a very short amount of period for them to deploy, and that's where execution takes place. And in general as well, because they have these assets in place, once all the fixed costs are taken care of, they have those margins to sustain itself. And they're also entering, like your project management, a less chunk, but it's something that is just entering. And they're introducing all these other segments where they have the assets in place, and then it all comes to how their order comes into place. So it's very sustainable.
But project management is the least in terms of margins. If we can pull up the margins for viewers, if we can. So project management is literally 20%.
Yeah, because that's expected. It's still something that they're entering in.
Fair.
You don't know how margins are going to play out in that.
So you believe it might just come off from those highs, and currently they've been focusing on the higher margin business. Is that what you're alluding to?
So I'm alluding to the fact that whatever they are entering into have a healthy margins.
Fair.
They've never entered in something that has anything lower than 20% itself. So they are entering in, and while expected is 20% in project management, one of their main things, natural gas compression, where demand is set to only rise going forward, is 60% margins.
Fair. Because the numbers really stand out. So great perspective. Let's go to order book.
Yeah. So let's go to order book. We've seen significant growth. Q2 FY25, we closed at a total of 2,622 crores. And we've seen our orders come in even after that. When you even compare on a year-on-year growth, it's twice to what we saw in Q2 of FY24 at over 1,100 crores. And when you look at the Q4 of FY22, the order book stands at around 630 crores. So it's a thumbs up when you talk about from an order book perspective.
Mihika, one more thing I want to highlight here. Order book, and this really stands out for me. Order book 2622 crore, and you've got your top line of FY24 sitting at 427 crore. So such strong execution required on the order book.
That's right.
And I'll be really curious to know how quickly they can do that, because that will determine how this company pans out or what journey this takes over the next maybe year or so. Let's look at the balance sheet though, because that's where I come in. So